Welcome to Time Luck Radio. I'm Gemini, and Susan Weed joins me to discuss a new and very important topic in our health and wellness series. Hello, Susan. Welcome back to Time Luck Radio.
Oh, thanks so much for welcoming me here again.
And tonight we're going to get started with the first part of digestion.
Yes, indeed. Digestion is quite the topic. There are millions of Americans taking drugs because they don't feel well after they eat. They have indigestion or digestive problems, and some of those can be, just uncomfortable. Some of them can be embarrassing. Some of them can be inconvenient. Some of them can actually be life-threatening.
Okay.
So we're going to actually spend 2 months talking about digestion, 8 shows, because there's really a lot to think about and a lot to learn. And I like to go slowly through the information so that we really have a chance to see how it fits with us, see how it fits in our lives. And because I find that a lot of people don't have very clear ideas of how their digestive organs work or even where their digestive organs are. I mean, how many people have you seen pat their belly where their intestines are and say, my stomach is upset?
Oh, yes, all the time.
All the time, right? When in fact your stomach is actually far higher up in your body. And I know they're just being general, but your body doesn't know that. As one of my teachers says, your body believes every word you say and tries to be as you're saying it. So we're going to really start with appetite and aroma and taste. And then next week we're going to get into the mouth and we're going to talk about chewing and salivary enzymes and what's really happening as we begin the process of digestion, and is that affected by drink or not? And then in our third week, we're going to get down. We have to get down to going through the esophagus. And we're going to talk about the roles of digestive bitters and, of course, acid reflux, which is one of the major digestive woes in America. And then the last show of this month, we will finally get to the stomach. And we'll talk about the digestion of protein. Is there a difference between hot food and cold food, and ulcers in the stomach, and bacteria, and a wonderful herb named slippery elm. And then starting in September, we will keep moving on through the digestive system, and we will meet the most important players in digestion, the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas, and we'll talk about some liver-loving herbs. And then we will finally get down into the gut, and you'll have an opportunity to meet the flora who live there in your gut, a fascinating group of organisms. And we'll talk about how nutrients get absorbed. And, of course, we can't be in the gut without talking about flatulence, the most embarrassing of digestive woes, and what we can do about that. And, well, we're coming toward the end. We're coming toward the end there, but there can be some big problems. So let's stop for a moment and talk about those problems, about food allergies, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, really difficult things that can go on in the digestive system. And can herbs help? What can we do? What do we need there? And then we will come to the end. In the end, we will look at the large intestine, and we'll look, of course, at hemorrhoids, the very ending of the large intestine. And we'll do a little looking into Oriental medicine and what Oriental medicine thinks about the large intestine as well. So that's what we're going to be doing. And let's get started then. I often ask my students, what is the thing that triggers you to eat? And many of them say, the food or thinking about the food. But in fact, what really triggers us to eat is the smell of the food. As a matter of fact, I was just sitting in my room and reading through some recent studies, and they found that women who use food-smelling shower gels eat more than women who don't. So if you eat a watermelon shower gel or coconut shower, the smell of that is actually going to make you crave food and not necessarily that food. And I know from coming from a long line of restaurateurs that the fire safety codes in restaurants are extremely severe, so severe that there's not the chance that any smell is getting out of that kitchen. So in order to entice you in, especially the fast food places, they actually have cans of pizza smell and French fry smell, and they have a special fan that blows out into the street, and they spray this smell into that fan. And when you smell it, then you say, wow, some French fries, that's really what I've been longing for. And you suddenly find your little feet walking in there and getting those French fries. And think about how you hardly have any appetite at all if you have a salt and your nose a little stuffed up and you can't smell anything. And you know, someone can put the most beautiful looking food down in front of you and it doesn't really trigger appetite. So you have heard me frequently talk about nourishing herbal infusions and kind of bountiful health that we can get from nourishing herbal infusions. And one of the things that I don't talk about much, unless I have a context like right now, is that when we're drinking nourishing herbal infusions, we become so richly mineralized that we actually improve our ability to smell. The ability to smell and the ability to taste are very dependent on having large amounts of minerals available in our blood. And so as we become better nourished, we are actually able to smell better. I think about one of my apprentices who accused me of ruining her candy. She had a certain kind of chocolate candy that had like a sugar-colored coating on it. And she didn't realize that I consider chocolate a food group and that I would provide the apprentices a dark chocolate indeed. So she brought along, big, 1 pound bags of these little chocolate, sugar-coated colored treats for herself. And she said after she had been here just slightly more than a week and been drinking nourishing herbal infusions as her only beverage for that time and eating a diet that doesn't contain any pepper, when she opened the second bag, she said the smell of it really made her like gag. And she said to me, she said, it's all your fault. You've ruined one of my favorite treats.
Wow.
Yeah, and I often say to people, I say, your body really knows what food it needs to nourish it,
Mm-hmm.
and it knows through smell. But if we've somehow disabled our smell, then it's very hard for our bodies to give us those messages. So we think about aroma, and we think about also taste, and they share one very interesting thing, and that is that the bundle of nerves that allows us to taste divides, and the bundle of nerves that allows us to smell also divides. And part of each bundle, as it divides off, goes to the brain stem. The rest of that nerve bundle goes more into the midbrain areas, which are the associative areas, the emotional areas, the areas of craving. But the other parts that branch off go to the brainstem, and the brainstem, of course, is the part of the brain which is the most primitive. It's the part of the brain that is responsible for respiration and heartbeat, what we call the autonomic functions, the things that go on without our thinking about them. And of course, digestion is one of those functions, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So the branching off of the nerves of smell and the nerves of taste, and those going to the hind brain, suggest first and foremost to me that the guardians of our health are smell and taste. And that in so far as we can enrich them, nourish them, and improve them, our health will also be enriched and nourished and improved, because we will so much more easily be able to know which foods we really want and not so easily led astray by things. another recent study found that when you eat a food that has a lot of fat and a lot of salt in it, that it triggers the same receptors in the brain that smoking marijuana triggers.
Oh.
And so there's this kind of call and response that gets set up there, which they don't quite go after saying it's an addictive response, but it's that, we get the surge of feeling good when we do it. And it's a dependable good. As we smell better and taste more acutely, it's easier to find that good without going after the difficult fats, the too much salt. All right. I certainly am no fan of low-fat diets.
Oh, not
In fact, over the past 4 or 5 months, I've been spending some time every evening and logging what I've been eating in a program that shows me how much of my diet is carbohydrate and how much is protein and how much is fat. And I would say on an average that my diet is between 40 and 50% fat.
Mm.
And that's not quantity, but calories, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and a great majority of that is saturated fat because I have dairy goats and I eat their dairy products. I drink their milk. I eat their yogurt. I have the cheese made from their milk. And it's very interesting to me that women who eat this diet find that they actually shed pounds because they're much more satiated. And they don't have the urge to eat in between meals. And again, drinking your nourishing herbal infusions nourishes you with virtually no calories. You begin to smell better. You begin to be able to taste. And taste is a fascinating thing to me. Smell is too. And before we get into taste, let me just say a couple more things about smell. Have you ever noticed that something that smells bad to you doesn't necessarily smell bad to a man?
Yes.
Every woman has noticed that. And of course we should, because women have 7 times more nerves to pick up scents than men do.
Really?
Yes. We are, shall we say, naturally well endowed.
I'd say.
Well, when we think about it, if smell is one of the guardians of our lives, certainly it's the guardian of the life of our unborn child.
Mm.
And when we're pregnant, those precious lives that we are nurturing are much more sensitive to foodborne bacteria and foodborne diseases than we are. And so we need to be able to tell, and that's usually where it comes out, right? A woman will usually go, this smells off. Offer it to a man and say, what do you think? And he'll go, smells fine to me.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
And you're both right. It is fine for him. It's not fine for you.
And a lot of times you'll have that smell sensitivity before you even realize you're pregnant. All of a sudden,
Yes.
it's just heightened.
Yes. Some women have actually told me that's how they know they're pregnant, because suddenly, like, the smell is, like, turned up to high gain.
Yes.
And it's like, every odor is affecting me. Whoa. And smell itself is very associative. If I ask you to remember an odor, you would remember not just the smell, but the whole scene.
Yes. How it made me feel, everything.
Everything, exactly. And this is an interesting way to help ourselves learn. If we need to learn something and be able to recall it, if we learn it with a particular odor, and then when we have to recall it, have that odor, then we can. Because the odor carries memory for us. Not only that, we are able to remember aromas for up to 50 years.
Wow.
So if you smell something and somebody says, oh, that's the scent of jasmine, and then you move to Alaska and you don't smell jasmine for 50 years, but then again after 50 years you smell it, you'll say, oh, that's jasmine. So we have a very powerful invoking of memory through smell. It's like a time machine. It takes us to the past. It can take us to the future. It can keep us healthy. So on to spending a little bit of time also with taste. And we think about, most people when they think about taste, have this little image flash through their minds of a tongue sticking out and the regions of taste circled on the tongue. Bitter here, sweet here, salty here. And we don't think that's true anymore.
Oh, okay. But that's exactly what comes to mind, though.
Yeah, we now think that all of the taste buds on the tongue are able to taste all of those tastes. And that what was going on when we thought like the tip of the tongue was bitter is that there are some people who have many, many more taste buds at the tips of their tongues. And those people are considered high tasters, and they will taste bitter in things that other people won't taste bitter in. Like to me, the flavor of broccoli is kind of mildly cabbagey and nutty. But to somebody who's a high taster, the flavor of broccoli is intensely bitter. So we have not only found that the ability to taste is spread out across the entire tongue, but that the tongue, in terms of being an organ of taste, is not really what we're using. Now, it is, as I said, a protector of our life. We need to be able to tell by tasting what plants, what foods are good, safe for us to eat. But the intestines contain 10 to 20 times more taste buds than the tongue does.
Wow.
So we are actually tasting from the inside. And again, because taste and smell are very closely associated, when we're not smelling well, we don't taste well. And taste, again, requires high levels of minerals, and not what we call the macro minerals, but the micro minerals. The minerals that we need in very tiny amounts, like selenium and zinc. Not the minerals that we need in large amounts, like calcium and potassium. And the nourishing herbal infusions are an ideal vehicle for bringing these micronutrient minerals to us so that we smell better and so that our ability to taste is heightened. And there's a new taste on the block. Have you heard of umami?
I don't know that I have.
Umami is a Japanese word, and it's a particular taste. It's the taste of mushrooms.
Oh.
It's the taste of steak. Some people say it's the taste of protein, but tofu sure does not have umami as its flavor.
Mm-mm.
So usually when I say mushrooms and steak, most people say, oh yeah, I know the flavor you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very earthy to me.
It's very earthy, and monosodium glutamate is umami, is the flavor. Its flavor is umami. And this is why it is used so much in Oriental cooking. We associate it with Chinese food because Oriental people are aware of and have been aware of for hundreds of years the flavor umami. And they try to maximize it in their food, and that's why they use that, because they believe that you get more from your food when you have this flavor. And interestingly enough, we have not been scientifically able to show that there's anyone who is actually reactive to monosodium glutamate in their food. In fact, glutamate is a form of a naturally occurring food chemical. Monosodium glutamate is not naturally occurring, but there are many naturally occurring forms. It's also, of course, the taste of tamari or shoyu. Some people call it soy sauce, but it's really a little different than that. So, wow. As I said, we are going to proceed slowly here through digestion. At this point, we have only smelled at the food and brought the food to our mouth to taste the food. And I talk about the primary flavors. The first primary flavor is sweet. Sweet is the taste of mother's milk. So we are all primed for sweet. If we didn't crave sweet, we would probably flunk out of life in the first couple of weeks. But we do crave that sweet. We go for it. We get that milk. And the taste of sweet will always be for us the taste of life. Sweet, of course, is not in plentiful supply in nature. To get it, we have to get stung by honeybees, or we have to go to the effort to tap maple trees and boil down the syrup when we don't have metal containers, and we have to do it with hot rocks and hollowed out logs. This really says a lot to me about people's desire for sweet, that we would go to this much trouble for sweet. And so, interestingly enough, those humans who have been successful in the pursuit of sweet have predominated. And it seems that sweet really does, in a very profound way, evoke life. And we think about when we are in love with somebody, what do we call them?
Sweetheart.
Sweetheart,
Or
honey, sugar, sweet plums, sweetums. I mean, it goes on and on, right?
Yes.
So sweet is the first taste, and it's the most important taste. However, we have only one kind of receptor for sweet. We have many, many copies of it throughout the intestines and the mouth. We have only one kind of receptor, so it's really easy to fool that receptor. We can make all kinds of things that taste sweet to us, but don't have any food value, including white sugar.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that, Susan. A naturally sweet taste versus a manufactured sweet taste. Is there a difference?
Well, in the strictest sense, all sweet is manufactured.
Okay.
Right? The bees take nectar from the flowers and manufacture honey, and then we steal it from them. Mm-hmm. It's a manufactured food. We tap maple trees and get the sap and boil down 100 gallons of sap to get 1 gallon of maple syrup, or even further to get a few pounds of maple sugar. That's manufactured. Mm-hmm. So we can grow sugar cane, and we can cut the sugar cane, grind it up, and get the, press it and get the liquid out of that. And that's not refined sugar. That sugar contains minerals. But if we then take off the molasses from that, and then we bleach that sugar, then we have what's called white refined sugar. And I actually do believe that there is some space for white refined sugar in every diet, because it's pretty awful to try to completely avoid it. But as I said, we just finished the Green Goddess Week, and Sunday at lunch, one of the women looked up and she said, I've just spent an entire week eating little or no white sugar and little or no white flour, and you know what? I really feel good. And it certainly wasn't that they were being deprived of anything. We had pasta dishes with whole wheat pasta. We had sweet things with whole wheat flour and often with honey or other sweeteners. But, of course, there were a few things that did have some sugar in it because, as any baker will tell you, there are places where you just got to use sugar if you want your baked product to have the texture that you want it to have. But the most recent research finds that white sugar is truly addictive. It causes the same structural and biochemical changes in the brain that alcohol and cocaine do.
I believe that.
Yeah. And so, again, remember my apprentice who said that I made her favorite white sugar treat smell bad by giving her nourishing herbal infusion to drink.
Yes.
And by insisting that she not waste her time drinking, something non-nourishing like water, or really flood her system with sugars by drinking fruit juice, but to drink a quart of nourishing herbal infusion a day. And this really helps us to enjoy but not overeat sugar. Now, when, these things that had sugar in them were given to this group of 10 women, what always amazes me, because I bring out, they haven't had dessert. They haven't had anything, baked or sweet like that. And I bring out chocolate chip cookies, and you'd think, wow, they would descend on it like a horde of locusts fighting and pulling before Christmas sale at Macy's. But no, usually half the bag is left. And I said to them, don't you want more? And they say things like, oh, no, I had one, and that was so satisfying. So, again, as we truly nourish ourselves, these shifts happen. The guardians of our lives, the ability to smell and the ability to taste, as they are nourished, are able to do their jobs and lead us without conscious thought to the foods that will really nourish us. One of the things that I always tell people when we begin to talk about digestion is, I want you to understand that the human brain is not designed to think about what we should eat. And through the vast majority of human existence, we didn't think about what we should eat. We thought about if we would eat. And we were very happy indeed to eat what there was. And many people subsisted on a diet that we would find monotonous in the extreme. So there was rarely a question of, should I eat this or should I eat that? It was merely, will I have something to eat? And I hope that this kind of eases off the pressure on you, because I know that a lot of people feel a lot of pressure and a lot of stress about what should I eat. And my answer to that is do your best to get whole foods, to get foods that don't have ingredients. Drink your nourishing herbal infusions. And as you begin to be able to smell and to taste better, you will naturally and easily be led toward those foods that will be the healthiest for you. And some people call me and say, I can't believe it. Now that I've gotten really healthy, I find that I really need meat in my diet. And I thought that being a vegetarian was better. I said, yeah, that's the problem with thinking about food. Is that we're just not constituted to do it, and we wind up in all kinds of unhealthy byways of limiting what we eat. The healthiest diets worldwide are the diets that are the broadest, and that include, shall we say, choices from column A, column B, column C, column D, and all the way down. In fact, our indigenous foremothers ate over 5,000 different foods. Your average American is lucky to eat 100 different foods during their lifetime.
Wow, that's really restrictive.
It is indeed. Well, I think we finally got the food to the mouth, and we're going to come back next week and talk about chewing.
Sounds great, Susan.
Okay, till then, green
Thank
blessings,
you.
everybody.
Thank you, Susan. Please join us next week to discuss the function of chewing, salivary enzymes, carbohydrate digestion, to drink or not. On behalf of Time Monk Radio, be well.